Welcome to the Loop Pad, a Looperlative Audio Products next-generation looping instrument for solo artists, bands, sound designers, and theaters to do live looping, soundscape design, and song building in real time. To start out, you'll learn how to power it up, integrate it with the Loop Pad app on your computer, and use the 16-colored LED pads to record, overdub, play, and erase your first loops. The Loop Pad gives you 8 independent stereo tracks, plus stereo input and output, so you can build rich, layered performances. You can use the headings or video chapters to jump around this tutorial. Before we plug it in, let's take a look at the device. There are 16 buttons that are your main hand controls for selecting tracks, recording, overdubbing, and triggering a wide selection of functions. Once powered up, you'll see that these buttons are multicolored LEDs. On the side is the power connector, stereo 1/4-inch inputs and outputs, both with toggle switch attenuation. There are 4 USB ports for controllers and connectivity, and an Ethernet port for network and app integration. The Loop Pad also works with a wide range of foot and hand controllers. The Loop Pad can communicate wirelessly or via Ethernet with the Looperlative Configure computer application, and it can send your tracks as independent FLAC files wirelessly to your computer while you are recording. A key element of the Looperlative ecosystem is the Looperlative Configure app, which permits the user to observe behavior in real time and to assign functions to button presses or external MIDI commands. Navigate to Looperlative.com, download, and install the Configure app for Mac or PC, depending on your system. After the app has downloaded, click on Install. Since I've already installed the software, I'm not going to complete the process here, but I will show you how to do it. On Windows, you may get a Microsoft Defender Smart Screen pop-up that says it's preventing an unrecognized app from starting. Go ahead and click the button Run Anyway in the lower right corner of the dialog box pop-up. Ignore any additional warnings and allow the app to place a shortcut on your desktop for easy access. After downloading and installing the app, also download the latest firmware for your device. Save that in a place that you can easily find it later, once we've gotten your Loop Pad and the app communicating with each other. Install new firmware using the Upgrade button on the main tab of the Configure app. Launch the app and let it stay open. We'll be using it in a bit. Right now, when it loads, notice where it says Connection Lost in the left area near the top of the first screen. This is where you'll be able to tell when the app and the Loop Pad are connected. Back to the Loop Pad. Each of the 8 tracks on the Loop Pad is a stereo loop lane. A loop is one repeating cycle of audio on that lane. You can add layers as overdubs on each track and engage a wide range of effects and changes before and after recording loops. Loop Pad can follow a click from a drum machine or follow its own internal master clock. It can also send clock data to other devices. The Loop Pad supports the same core interface and control functions as LP1 and LP2, plus has some new features and tricks we'll explore later. So, you can have tracks run in sync with the internal clock or an external clock source using a MIDI interface, but you can also run asynchronously for more free, evolving soundscapes, and you can combine synced and asynchronous loops. If synced, the loops can be multiples of each other, or if unsynced, asynchronous, loop lengths are independent of each other. The 16 LED buttons can be rotated or oriented in any of 4 directions, meaning you can set the Loop Pad in the most convenient position relative to your rig orientation and the Loop Pad cables. When the Loop Pad is displaying the 8-color LED buttons, pressing either of the 2 unlit corner buttons will enable rotation of the display to any of 4 possible orientations. When you've loaded a color preset group, pressing the lower right button will return the display to the 8-color LED buttons, so you can navigate to other color bank preset groups. Let's start with a simple connection, so you can hear yourself looping as quickly as possible. First, connect the power jack to the supplied power supply wall wart. Use only the supplied power supply to ensure proper power and so as not to damage the Loop Pad by using an incompatible power supply. The Loop Pad takes 20 to 30 seconds to power up. When the lights are lit as shown here, the Loop Pad is ready to start and to be connected to the app. You can go direct from your instrument or microphone into the loop pad and out to an amp or powered speaker. The use of a mixer is not required, but it will allow you to send the signal of multiple devices to the loop pad in stereo. Sending both dry and wet together is most useful when you're connecting an instrument or microphone directly to the loop pad without a mixer. To utilize a mixer, connect the left and right auxiliary sends or sub-outputs of your mixer to the stereo input of your loop pad. Next, connect the stereo output of the loop pad back into your mixer auxiliary returns or to a channel, which then sends the signal to your monitors or headphones. If you send the loop pad output to a channel on your board, make sure that channel isn't busted to send signal back to the loop pad through the auxiliary sends or sub-outputs. By default, the loop pad sends both dry and wet signals through the output jacks. In the Configure Apps main tab, you can change the settings so that it only sends the wet signal. When using a mixer, you don't want to double the volume of your dry signal by having the dry signal in 2 channels. If you're using a foot controller or an expression pedal that gets plugged into one of the USB ports, you can use a 510 to USB or an 1/8-inch TRS to USB MIDI converter to connect controllers that don't have native USB MIDI. You can connect the loop pad to your computer with an Ethernet cable to the Ethernet port, or use the wireless connection method. Note that you do not need to connect USB or Ethernet devices to use the loop pad, but you do need to connect to the app to customize the configuration of your loop pad. Now check the Looperlative Configure app. If you're connected with an Ethernet cable, the app will show the software version on the right near the top and the firmware information in place of the connection lost text on the left of the app screen near the top. This is how you know you're connected. To connect wirelessly, the first step is to hold down the lower right blue button for 5 seconds. Holding the button enables a router mode that allows the computer to talk to the loop pad. The computer repeatedly sends out a message searching for the loop pad until the loop pad responds. When using Ethernet, you don't need to hold the button. To use the wireless connection, you need to open the network connection utility on your computer, like you do when connecting to an internet provider, and find the network and connect to it like you would connect to any other network. After a few moments, the connection lost text on the app should change to show the app and firmware version information once communication is established. Be careful to watch the input level on your mixer or device sending audio to the loop pad. You want a healthy signal without clipping. If you hear distortion, bring the source level down until the distortion is gone. You can also use the toggle level switches on the side of the loop pad to cut or boost levels. The first screen you see on startup is the screen where you view and configure the loop pad. Let's look at the default configuration that ships with your loop pad. The loop pad has 8 preset groups, each represented by a different color. The default preset group that loads on startup is the blue group. This blue preset group has a button to select each track using the left 2 columns for track 1 through 8. So, in column A, top to bottom the buttons select track 1 through 4. In column B, from top to bottom, the buttons select track 5 through 8. The other buttons in the blue preset group are as follows. Column C, top to bottom. The first press of column C button 1 engages record/dub and immediately starts recording on the currently selected track. Press that button again and that track goes into overdub for layering additional sounds onto that track, and a third press puts that track in playback. In the lower left area of the app, the behavior sequence can be changed to be record, playback, overdub, if that better fits your style intent, meaning the first press starts record, the second press engages playback, and the third press engages overdub. Column C button 2 sets the track level to +5, which boosts the volume by a +5 increment for each button press on the currently selected track, up to the maximum value of 0. Column C button 3 sets the track level to -5, which decreases the volume by a -5 increment for each button press on the currently selected track, down to the minimum value. Column C button 4 is configured as a multifunction preset, which selects all tracks, then engages track erase on all tracks. It then resets feedback to 100 and restores full volume, which is represented numerically as 0, and then selects track 1. So to repeat for clarity, a multifunction preset allows multiple functions, up to 8, to be grouped into one button press. This specific column C button 4 effectively clears the loop pad and resets it to be ready to record on track 1. It's important to point out where in the app screen that you can program a button to have up to 8 presets. Column D, top to bottom. Column D button 1 engages play/stop now. If a track is in playback, this will stop it instantaneously with the button press. If the track is stopped, pressing this will engage playback on that track instantaneously with the button press. Column D button 2 engages feedback plus 10%. If you have set a negative feedback value, which is a disruptive gradual reduction of the recorded audio until the track becomes blank, then pressing this button will increase feedback. For instance, if you've hit the feedback minus 10% 3 times, which is a combined feedback reduction of 30%, then hitting this button will bring that feedback reduction back up. It's important to note that feedback is different from fade. Faded tracks can be brought back up in level because only the volume is decreased, but with feedback, the audio level is actually destructively lowered by the percentage you've set. If negative feedback is used to reduce the audio to eventual silence, the track cannot be brought back up to 100%. Plus feedback only reduces the percent of level destruction. Column D button 3 engages feedback minus 10%. As we've just explained feedback versus fade, pressing this button causes a 10% destructive feedback rate. This can be set during playback or record, and essentially, when used during record, this will gradually reduce the volume of previously recorded sound while you add new sound. Think of feedback on a delay unit. It sets a subsequent amount of delay repeat and how quickly the signal disappears while continuing to record new input or letting it play out. The column D button 4 is the same in each color preset group. Pressing this button toggles through the various color preset groups and allows you to change the orientation of the button layout. As mentioned earlier, depending on how you set up your loop pad, you may need to change the orientation of the buttons to accommodate your cabling footprint. Press this multiple times and you'll see how it works. And this button also allows you to access the other color preset groups, so let's say you're in the blue preset group and you want to access commands in another color preset group. Press this button, select the color of the group you want to access, and that will load that color preset group. Using the default configuration that ships with the loop pad, let's record your first loop. Step 1. Select track 1. If it's not already selected, the button will turn blue. Step 2. Tap the record/dub button, column C button 1, once to start recording. The track 1 button turns red and flashes. Now play or sing your phrase, and when you reach the end of the idea, tap again to close the loop and go into overdub. The track 1 LED turns green and continues flashing in overdub mode. It flashes amber 3/4 of the way into the loop and then flashes blue to mark the beginning of the loop. When using a clock or a sync source to trigger loop start/stop, the amber flash is on the last beat and the blue flash marks the beginning of the loop. We'll cover this in a later video. As previously mentioned, the default record tap sequence is first tap equals record, second tap equals overdub, third tap equals playback. But remember, in the app, you can change that sequence to record then playback then overdub if that is your preference. On the second tap, you're in overdub. Play or sing a second layer, a harmony, a texture, or a simple accent. Step 3. Now tap once more to leave overdub and enter playback. The loop keeps playing, but you're no longer recording. The track button stays green and stops flashing. To stop the loop, use the play/stop control, column D button 1. Once you've stopped the loop, the track 1 LED turns solid red to indicate it has material recorded on it. It's important to note here that some play/stop commands will play or stop at the press of the button, whereas other play/stop commands will wait for the sync source or the beginning or end point of the loop. This specific button is set to act simultaneously with the button press. We'll go over those different start/stop modes later. Now that you've stopped your loop using the top right button, press it again to restart playback. We'll cover syncing tracks internally and syncing tracks to an external clock source in deeper dive tutorials. Select track 2 by pressing column A button 2, the selected button lights blue. Let's add a second track that's not synced with the first. Now tap Record/Dub button, column C button 1, to start recording, then play or sing a phrase, then tap to close the loop and enter overdub mode. You can add more audio here or press it again to enter playback mode. Now both tracks are playing. You can stop, delete, or restart each track independently to shape your arrangement. Depending on the specific start/stop function type that is programmed, you can start or stop individual tracks or start or stop them all. You can stop at the loop end or at the press of the button. These 16 multicolored pads are where Loop Pad really comes alive. Each color tells you what preset group you're using. There is also a blink pattern when syncing to an external clock, when the loop pad is waiting for the start of sync source, and the color of a track shows you the state it's in, either record, overdub, play, blank, or stopped. You can assign pads to select tracks, start and stop loops, undo, erase, and trigger special functions. The idea is that you can play Loop Pad like an instrument, not just a recorder. Let's take a quick look at the Loop Pad app that's running on my computer. You'll notice there are 9 tabs. We'll go over each in detail later on, but to summarize. The main tab is where you can see and connect your device to the app, upgrade, save and load configs, set up your controllers and pad presets, set up device defaults, and observe individual track behavior in real time. The values shown for each track under their track number are as follows, from top to bottom per track. The first value is empty until you are recording, overdubbing, or playing. The second value is loop length in seconds. The third value shows elapsed time when it's playing. The fourth value is volume, from minimum to 0. 0 equals full volume. The fifth value is feedback, 0 to 100. The sixth value is pan from -128 full left to +128 full right, with 0 being true center. The additional settings that are shown as this tab are the first row of drop-down menus under the white line. MIDI button, used to assign an incoming MIDI command or loop pad button pressed to a functions or set of functions. First column allows MIDI command type selection between program change, CC, note, or a loop pad button. The next column allows selection of the MIDI command or loop pad button number selected in the first column. The second row of drop-down menus. This is where you choose the function or functions that you want associated with the specified MIDI command. Up to 8 functions can be assigned to a single command. The third row of drop-down menus are controller function, controller minimum, controller maximum. This is designed for external hardware controllers like knobs and expression pedals to map to controller functions, volume, pan, feedback, or speed. Plus individual track volume, pan, and feedback are available in the loop pad. Under the next white line we have these settings. LP2 display brightness pertains to LP2 only. LP2 display mode pertains to LP2 only. MIDI channel 1 through 16. MIDI in clock mode, choose allow or ignore. MIDI out clock mode, choose on or off. Noise gate level, choose off or values 9, 10, 11, or 12. Main level, all integer values from -4 to +4. Mono input, choose stereo or mono. Under the next white line we have these settings. MIDI BPM. In this case, BPM stands for bars per measure, and the values are from 3 to 64. Output, choose wet plus dry or wet only. Pedal catch, choose off or on. Pedal catch off means the value will jump from where it was previously to where the pedal is at when it is moved, meaning it can be an abrupt jump. On means that the pedal will only change the value once it matches where it was previously. Volume fade minimum sets the lowest volume value that fade will go down to. By default, this number is -128, but a value near -60 is often better. Volume fade time 1 to 99 controls how fast the track will fade or swell. This is covered in a different video. Random restart minimum 0 to 5 and maximum 1 to 20 triggers a track to play once, then pause for a random amount of time before playing again. After each playing of the loop, the pause length is randomly chosen, resulting in a track that plays at unpredictable times. To turn off random restart, you must use a stop function on the track. CC track select, on or off, using a continuous controller. On means the knob or pedal change will also make the track being changed the selected track. Off means a knob or pedal adjustment will not change what track is selected. Record then overdub then play order. Set button order from record then overdub then play, or record then play then overdub. The LP2 Effects tab only pertains to the LP2 device. The Audio Files tab is where you can load and manage audio files that you want to save to the device for triggering. The Raspberry Pi and Plugins tab pertains to that device only. Loop pad users are not required to license/register the device. Every loop pad is automatically licensed. The Patterns tab is for building patterns. You can have up to 8 patterns with up to 64 steps each. These patterns can be triggered using a MIDI command. The Control Pad tab is for a basic built-in drum machine, which we will describe later. The LP Pad tab is where you can see the legend showing the configuration of all 8 color banks, showing the function assignments of each pad of each color bank. This screen updates automatically as you change the loop pad button assignments. The Sequencer tab is for creating custom patterns, which we will describe later. The Audio Recording tab is where you configure wireless recording from the loop pad to your computer. Let's click back to the main tab. The loop pad can also be controlled by foot and hand controllers through USB MIDI interface. You configure the functions of the controller buttons or knobs by using the app, and you can observe what is happening on the loop pad in real time using the app. Go ahead and plug in your controller to one of the USB ports. Using the app, an external controller can be mapped to the same functions we've just used on the pad grid, or to any of the other functions. Some functions are triggered by buttons such as program changes, note or pad messages, and CC functions are controlled by pedals or knobs such as volume, pan, feedback, or speed. When you press a button, turn a knob, or use a pedal, the Looperlative Configure app senses it automatically and shows you the command you've given. This is where you choose what each command triggers in the loop pad. Go ahead and click the pull down to see the list of available functions for buttons, which are program changes, note and pad messages, and the available functions for CC controllers like pedals or knobs. It's also important to again note that each button press can trigger up to 8 functions simultaneously. One application of this could be when you want to select Function 1, a specific track, and Function 2, erase, all with one button press. Another application of this feature could be to select all tracks, Function 1, and Fade/Swell, Function 2, with one button press. The possibilities are virtually infinite. The more familiar you become with using the loop pad, the more you'll gain intuition of specific use cases for programming behavior. When you press a button on the loop pad, the current settings are shown in the app and can be changed. The same with an external controller. Once it's hooked up, the loop pad sees it, and when you press a button, pedal, or knob, you can choose from dozens of possible functions. A list of all available functions is available in the manuals for each Looperlative device, but you can also see them in the drop-down of function settings. Remember, when connected, in the main tab, the app will display the current app and firmware versions you're running. As soon as you see this, you're ready to configure your loop pad and external devices. If this flashes between version info and connection lost, this relates to your connection strength. As mentioned earlier, because one button is always the bank select button, you can save 8 configurations of 15, represented by the 8 LED button colors and the 8 colors on the LP Pad tab. You switch between the 8 setups by pressing the bottom right loop pad button. In upcoming deep dive tutorials, we'll demo all the different functions and explain each in greater detail, but for now, we just want to give you an overview so you can get started right away without having to do a bunch of tutorials in advance. When you've dialed in a setup you like, you can save the configuration to your computer, recall/load different presets for different shows. It's really smart to keep a backup so you never lose your rig settings. Remember that on Audio Recording tab, the loop pad can be set to send individual audio tracks as .FLAC files wirelessly to your computer, so you can capture performances into your DAW without extra cabling. In this Getting Started tutorial, you learned how to connect loop pad, record and overdub on the tracks, control loops from the pad grid, connect and configure external controllers, and use the loop pad app for configuration and backup. In the next videos, we'll dive into advanced features, and there are a ton of them: tempo synced tricks, unique functions, and some brand new loop pad options for sound design and performance. As a user of the Looperlative Audio Products loop pad, or any of the Looperlative loopers, you are part of a unique and discerning community of artists. There is no other device currently on the market that offers all the features you're getting in the loop pad, and we want to support you and welcome your feedback for improvements and new features. Please be sure to join the Facebook, Mastodon, and Blue Sky group, follow the IG page, and subscribe to the YouTube. Reach out to other Looperlative users on social media and look for a Loopfest in your area. They're all over the globe, and several Loopfest artists are using Looperlative loopers. If there's not one in your area, start one. Thank you for your interest of the Looperlative Audio Devices loop pad. We're excited to see what you create with it. Be sure to tag us in social media so we'll be able to follow your